Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Of course, brother. So I'm so excited to get into all this entrepreneurial lessons, wisdom, everything that you've learned in your career, and really get inside your mind. I know you immigrated to Canada when you were very young from Russia, very tough childhood, grew up without a father, and towards when you were my age, you went into banking, and you started waking up to some of the things such as the 4-hour work week, lifestyle design, and then that really sparked your journey. I wanted to touch upon what really happened during that time when you were my age, and what were the breaking points for you?
Yeah. So how old are you?
I'm 22.
Oh, 22. Amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think 23 is when we started a kind of Luxy Hair, which was our first business. And what really sparked the entrepreneurial journey, because think about back in when I was, say, my early 20s, entrepreneurship wasn't as hot as it is now.
Yeah.
And the hot thing to do was to be a banker, to be in investment banking or to work in finance, because that's where the money was.
Yeah.
That was my dream. I got fired from working at a bank while I was still full-time university. I was working full-time because I didn't have that kind of option, so I had to support myself. And my dream was crushed when I got fired because I wanted to be a banker. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. That was not my thing, even though I've always had entrepreneurial tendencies ever since I was young. So when I was, already 10 years old, coming to Canada as an immigrant, my sister would find me jobs where she was like, we would be both on parking lots where this guy would give these kids flowers and we would sell them, and he would charge us something per flower and we would get a little cut. So you're already thinking, okay, I have 30 units in stock. I have the whole day to sell it. Each unit cost me $5. I sell it for 10. My margin is 5. Like at 10, 11 years old, I already had to kind of think that way. But I never thought that anything like that was serious. I was thinking, because as most people are like, you go to university and you become a professional, and that's secure and that's the way to live. So this whole entrepreneurship thing was never in my mind. And then I get fired from the bank because I had a non-entrepreneurial side gig. So I didn't get fired because I was doing something bad. I was actually, meeting my targets, exceeding my targets. My clients loved me. My manager loved me. But even though I was in school full time and I was working full time, I also had like a side hustle, like so many people have now, right? They have side hustles where they do something else to have extra money. It's just the environment we now live in. But at that time, when you work for a big corporation, you sign a contract, and in your contract,
to get into anything else.
Understandably, I employ people now too. I don't want them to be on their, while they're working for me, working on their side hustle. I wouldn't also find that respectful. So they're like, sorry, you breached the contract. We found that. And that's a key lesson to any of you guys going to corporate. Don't use your corporate email for anything non-business related. They do spy on your emails.
Oh my God.
Like it's legit. And they're like, literally, it was like, hey, here's your emails. We see that you have some other side business you're doing. You breached the contract. Sorry, we have to let you go. And I was crushed. I was like, my life is over. I've been kind of tainted. And that's when my whole journey began into, okay, what else can I do? And 4-hour work week kind of came about. That time was really popular. It still is. And that book for me, what was the most insightful thing is this idea of lifestyle design. I never thought that there was anything else but university, job, retirement, and work up the ladder, buy yourself a BMW, a house in the suburbs, and live your life. That's I was signed up for that. I'm like, I want the American dream. I'm from Russia. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, Tim Ferris talking about you can travel and you don't need to earn much. And even if you just make $40,000, you can sustain yourself and be in, as we were talking before, in Nicaragua or Colombia or these other places and live a good life, Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is cool. And most importantly, I think for a lot of people, as for me, the reason you get into entrepreneurship is because you want to be free. And freedom is the ultimate value of entrepreneurs. You just can't be in a place where people tell you what to do, or B, like both me and my wife, you're really bad at following directions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people tell us to do something, like it's like we're maybe dyslexic. Literally, we're bad at following directions.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all began for us. And those type of books just exposed us to this idea that this is possible. And then we're like, hey, let's do it. Let's go after it.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to like hop into the lifestyle design aspect of all of this. So when you read that book, I read it in the quarantine, and it was like mind blowing. Just the tactics that Tim Ferris has in there. It's really cool. I really recommend it. But when you approached the lifestyle design, how did you like visualize the life that you wanted to have? And then how did you start taking small steps towards that life?
Yeah, so we were a bit crazy. I don't recommend to do what we did. Like, hey, in hindsight, it worked, but it cannot. Maybe it won't work. Like I said, so what we knew to do after I read that book is, okay, lifestyle design. How do I create a lifestyle that I want to live? Then as you said, you imagine, and this is very important. You have to create a vision for yourself of what is the life that you want to live. And it can be, hey, I want to be on the beach and just hang out. Cool. If that's what you want to do, try it out. For us, it was more about having that location dependence to be able to travel and be wherever we want to be. So, okay, great. How do we do that? Online business. Okay, online business. How do you do an online business? Okay, you sell some sort of a product. What product do I sell? And then you kind of start reverse engineering and thinking. And we were actually, the backstory to our success. So for me getting fired to us starting a business, it was actually about 2 years. And in those 2 years, we were kind of struggling to a certain degree. We were trying different things out. I was doing a social media business. This is in 2010. Mm-hmm. I was trying to be a social media marketer, like selling businesses like, hey, you can grow your business with social media and Twitter and Facebook. Instagram wasn't even out yet. And businesses were like, get lost, kid. Like, who are you? Like selling snake oil salesman. This doesn't work. Yeah. And I really believed in it. I really believed in social media. I really believed in the power of it. I really feel like this is the next industrial revolution. It's just like this thing. So for us, this whole idea of YouTube and podcasting or, vlogging or using videos can really help you build a brand. And with Gary Vaynerchuk and kind of his first book really inspired that too. Mm-hmm. And this is before kind of he got big. And so it was really us thinking, okay, what product can we sell online that can enable us to be location dependent? And I worked for somebody actually, and this is another important part of the story. As we're running out of money, one of my friends calls me. He knows I'm doing the social media thing, and says, "Hey, come work for me. I need a social media person." I'm like, "How much do you pay?" And he's like, $4,000 a month. I'm like, "Whoa, $4,000 a month, great." I'm like, "Sign me up." 4,000. I didn't even make that much before, Canadian dollars. So I'm working for him in this contract, but I've already had almost 2 years off, and now I'm back in a cubicle, listening to the 4-hour work week again. And I'm like, I can't do this. I just can't work for anybody else. And then I actually came up to him and I said, "Hey, can you give me equity? Because I need to have some sort of ownership." Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Come on, man. Like, you're just starting to work. You're already asking me for equity." And I'll probably do that too. Like, if anybody works for me, I'll probably tell them also, like, get lost. However, I probably would have done maybe something different. Like, okay.
It was a bold move though.
Yeah, it was. And I don't think it was smart, but maybe it could have been some sort of, option, some sort of revenue share or something. But basically, for people like myself, you need to incentivize me so that I can have a piece of the pie that I'm actually growing. Right. Mm-hmm. And so there he said, "No, sorry, it won't work out." I said, "I have to leave if I can't have a piece." Mm-hmm. But in that time I worked for him, which was probably only 2 months, I've learned how to actually import stuff from China, how to source from China, how to have a fulfillment warehouse. So what that means is, like, for anybody who may not be experienced with the business, online business is very simple. It's literally like, it sounds complicated, but it's not. All it is, okay, you need the product to sell. What's the product? how do you source it? Where do you get it? So it can be from the US, China is the main source. They produce most of the stuff. Okay,
And
great.
the rest is marketing.
Yeah, but also, how do you get it from China? But no, this logistic
Like
stuff is important, right? So, okay, how do you get the product from China, import it into the States? And that's another important thing, is me being a Canadian back then, I thought selling, and that's where a lot of people get lost, whether it be in Europe or in Latin America, they just focus on their local market. And sometimes their local market is too small and they won't be able to actually grow. But the beauty of online business is that you can have a global market at your disposal if you just know how to properly put your logistics in place and know how to set up companies and kind of 3PL or third-party logistics warehouses where you can store your goods and ship out of. Because once you get the goods into the country and you set up an online store, you then automatically kind of set it up. And when people buy, let's say from our Shopify store now or from before, it automatically sends that signal to the third-party fulfillment warehouse, and that the warehouse then sends out the good.
Yeah.
And to me, the reason I went into this business is what I understand. Now, the ultimate of this is if you do a completely digital product, right? That you don't even need
like an online course or something, right?
Yeah, it can be an online course. It can be an app. It can be whatever online where it doesn't even require. So all they need is just download and get it. So that's the ultimate thing. But we went with the physical because that's what we know. And kind of, the rest was really history, because like you said, the other element is the marketing aspect. And I would say that's really our specialty. And that's where we turn into kind of YouTube early days. But even then, early in the YouTube 2010, a lot of people already were saying, oh, it's too late. It's kind of like TikTok now, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's too late. There's already big stars on there. But the reality is it's never too late. Even to this day now, YouTube, I still believe in YouTube. I still believe you can go in there and build yourself a really good brand and following. So that's kind of what we did. And the other strategy of the business, how we market is, we just created YouTube videos that would add value to people, to explain, like, people, because let's say our initial product was hair extensions, and my wife and her sister would make videos on how to do different hairstyles. So it had nothing to do related with the product, but it's you always want to give people the stuff they're searching for.
Yeah.
So they're searching for, like, hey, I want to have beautiful hair. Great. Here's a hairstyle. We're providing you value for free. And hey, if you want to make your hair more beautiful, boom, you can get this product. And that's how you convert. So what all I just said is everything you really need to know. Even you being in business school, like, business is that simple. It's like product. Where do you source that product? How do you market that product? How do you sell that product? And how do you serve your client?
Yeah, and one of the things. Sorry about that. One of the things that I wanted to ask you about is because during the quarantine, 60% of my time was going into the internet, investigating how do you start a podcast, what microphone do you need, all of this. And it's really frustrating at first because it's like this whole new world that you're getting into. And I can imagine the same thing for e-commerce, and it's a learning curve. I wanted to ask you, like, what type of mindset do you need to start building to sustain that learning curve and then get to the other side and be like, okay, now I know how to do this. I'm more comfortable. Like, how did you pass that? I would call it like a barrier you have to pass,
I think you named a very important word, and that is mindset. And what I can tell you is that what will get you anything in life is your mindset. If you don't have the right there's a great book, Growth Mindset, where it speaks about, do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? And growth mindset is that you're curious, you're always learning, you don't see yourself as that you're stagnant, and that's it, that's who you are. And as you said, if you're curious and you're learning, you can, especially now, you can find anything you want online, whether it be forums or YouTube or anything else. So the mindset to kind of even get you to go there, the most important thing is to believe. Believe that it's possible. And that's why it's important to listen to podcasts like this, or other podcasts, or to audiobooks, or to read certain books, is because there's people like myself or others who came before me who were telling kind of ways they've achieved their success. And once again, with certain mindset, especially with that negative mindset or fixed mindset, where people are like, oh, he's just trying to sell me something. He doesn't care. Nobody cares. Everyone's out for themselves. Nobody wants, like, they're just saying it like this way, but it doesn't really work. Like, with that kind of mindset, you will never succeed, because you're basically telling your brain like, like you're already, it's fixed. There's no room for maneuver. And me personally come from where I come from in regards to my upbringing and my neighborhood where I grew up, and poverty and things like that. What keeps people there is simply they don't have the belief that they're able to get out, that they can build the life for themselves, or they can achieve, even if another thing is, like, in the early days, even if you now are, let's say you go to the great business school you're in, you get a great professional career, you're an investment banker earning good money. But if you don't have the belief that you become an entrepreneur, you'll never be able to become an entrepreneur. And you can be in a good place. And it can be for other things like we talked about, even a relationship. If you have something that happened to you in your childhood with your parents, and you think like, oh, all men are jerks or all women are like this, and that's your mindset, well, that's what you're going to keep attracting into your life. And that's why I think the word that you said is so important. It's what is that mindset? And I think the mindset that you need to ingrain and work on is that mindset of belief, is that mindset of opportunity. Because what entrepreneurs really do, they're just able to spot opportunity. Like, I'm still, like, boggles my mind. Like, I'm really, both me and my wife, we're not geniuses, we're not super smart. And if you look at, I met a lot of billionaires, and you're like, even like Richard Branson, he's not like a genius. But he believes in himself. And most importantly, he not only believes in himself, he also, most importantly, he trusts and believes in other people. And that other people can actually work together with them to help them grow. And that's really what entrepreneurship is about, is really belief, looking out for opportunity, and also trusting and working with other people to grow something that you, once again, as a leader, believe in, that you're able to create by yourself or your team. So it's all about mindset.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple of your videos also with Mimi, where you guys cover your morning and nightly routines. And one of the things, like, I've realized is that habits make us, like, we're literally creatures of habit. So I wanted to get into that, because I know how hard it is, even with, like, for example, the 5-minute journal. It's hard to like wake up every morning and then write the 3 things we're grateful for, the affirmations. How do you approach habits, and how do you, like, understand when you need to build a new one or let go of an old habit? How do you approach that?
Yeah, I think there's several great things you mentioned. Number one, of course, I totally agree with you. We are creatures of our habits, the good and the bad. I think many of us, including myself, which is, a very addictive one, is social media and our phones. And that's a habit. We've kind of ingrained it. The other part, in regards to how do you become aware and build new habits, is, I think most importantly, same thing, model people who are living the life that you want to live. You want to study really people and their habits of those people. So for myself, and how we kind of really created the 5-minute journal, what it came out of was really this idea. Tony Robbins was somebody that I followed on my kind of come up. He was the first person to I came across who spoke about this whole idea of mindset and belief.
He's the OG.
Yeah, like I said, honestly, a lot of people have a love and hate relationship with the guy. But when I was a poor kid working at a retail store as a stock person for minimum wage, right, for $5 an hour or whatever it was in Canada, in Canadian dollars. My mom also worked there as a retail person, and our manager there, he gave us tapes of Tony Robbins, right? And he was the first person to speak about these things like habits and gratitude. And so I was like, hey, this guy is actually he has a pretty good life. So let me model what he does. And one of the things he spoke about was in the morning, you want to have this hour of power. You want to set up your day with what's going to happen for the rest of the day. And you want to get your exercise in. You want to wake up and talk about your gratitude. You want to get out and talk about the things you're grateful for. And for 15 minutes, do gratitude. Before that, I didn't even know what gratitude was. So this whole idea with gratitude and appreciation, I then train myself to have a habit as soon as I wake up in the morning to think of one thing that I'm grateful for. Because same thing, if you start your morning with a habit of as soon as you wake up, your first thought that you put into your mind is, I'm grateful that I woke up. You're appreciating as you wake up instead of having thoughts of like dread, oh, another day, whatever. And it takes time, because the thing with habits, and going to the other part of your question, like, okay, how do you actually build habits? How do you put them into your life? I think most importantly, you have to create a certain reminder for yourself to make that habit happen. So for example, you have, you go in your washroom in the morning, most likely you have your toothbrush by the sink. Why do you have your toothbrush by the sink? Is it kind of like a reminder to like, hey, brush your teeth? And your toothbrush actually, like, it sits there by the sink all day. It's not many of us actually take the toothbrush and put it away. We take it out of the thing, we brush our teeth and put it away. Most of the time, for most people, it's there by the sink all day, even though you use it twice a day. And similar thing, like you mentioned about the 5-minute journal, we kind of referred to it, this product that we created about, it's a toothbrush for your mind. And what we recommend, how do you actually do this habit, is that similar how you keep a toothbrush by your sink on the side to remind you that you have to brush your teeth. Because, why do all of us brush our teeth? If we don't brush our teeth, what will happen?
Yellow teeth.
Yeah, yellow teeth, bad breath.
Bad breath.
You're not gonna have a girlfriend anymore.
Oh my god.
Or you're not gonna. No one's gonna hire you. Because they're like, oh, that guy's breasting. So
unemployed. You're gonna have to start a company now. Like,
yeah, who knows? But I'm saying it's this. We keep this hygiene habit. And we do it every day. We don't just brush our teeth for 5 years and say, my teeth are white enough and clean enough, I can just stop now. Because it's going to come back. And so we have the same idea with why you have to do certain habits on every single day, and 5-minute journal being one of them, is that your brain automatically, like the germs in your mouth, goes to the negative. It's how we're programmed. Don't think like, a lot of people have this idea like, Alex is just positive all the time and he's happy all the time. No, I'm a regular human being. I have bad thoughts. I have bad days. I have, like bad moods. Yeah. But the way I override that is the same way like you brush your teeth. You kind of have yourself a reminder of what's good in your life. And there's always something good. So with, to way to train and instill a habit is have those cues in place. So for me, for example, is having, let's say, the 5-minute journal on my bedside table, so that with a pen, because the moment you don't have a pen, you don't do it. So you have to have these cues built in, right? So you kind of remember, or if you really want to do it, you put the 5-minute journal there on your pillow. Yeah. Right. So before you go to sleep, you're like, oh, it's a reminder. The journal is there. I have to do it. And you do it until you kind of get in that habit, and then you can have it on your bedside, things like that. But I think with any of the habits, and as you build them, it's the same thing. You want to go out for a run every morning. Well, maybe you put your running shoes, same thing, at the bottom of your bed. So as soon as you wake up, you cross your thing, you're like, oh, my running shoes are here. It's a reminder for me to go running today. Or you have the running shoes right there by the door. So it's something that you're forced to see. Or you have a sticky note on your computer about a certain habit that you want to keep building. Or it can be a sticky note with like smile. It'll help you. That sticky note will remind you to build a habit of smiling, or build a habit of like one thing you're grateful for. And it's just that reminder. So I think a lot of habit building has to be with cues and kind of notes to just kind of keep you there until you get in that moment of that it just becomes part of you. So for example, for me right now, gratitude is really part of me, because I've done it for so many years. I can't complain. Like I literally, it's hard for me to complain because life is good. Like I have nothing to complain about. I'm healthy. I'm talking to you. I have internet connection. I live in London. Like I can't complain. And there's certain basic things that you kind of cover and do. But I would say a big thing of habit building is that cue and reminders to create yourself to do that, and accountability. I think we as humans really work well together when we're accountable to somebody else. That's why oftentimes, and the difficult thing of entrepreneurship is you're the only one accountable to yourself. It's actually easier to be accountable to a boss, to a manager. It's great. I work way better with people watching me or people managing me. I'm way better. But if you want to succeed, you have to be able to kind of create accountability with yourself. But you can still hack it. You can still have an accountability buddy. You can, for example, one of my habits that I do on my phone, I set after 9:30, all my apps go out, right? I can't access my Instagram. I can't access my email. Mimi is the only person that accountability, my wife, she's the only person who has that password. So I'm literally like a child. If I need to ask her to like, hey, can I use my Instagram? She'll have to say yes or no. But it's once again, it's building in that accountability because I'm aware enough, knowing that if it's there, I'm probably going to cheat. I'm still probably going to do it. So how do I create an accountability partner who can kind of keep me in check, and then I have to go through in order for me to do something?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue that we can go, because you've been mentioning when you talk about your companies, we or us, you've said Mimi, you said your wife. And one of the things I've also like become more aware of lately is the importance of the people that are surrounding you. And I know that you've built Luxy Hair, you built Intelligent Change alongside your life partner, basically your wife. I wanted to ask you, like, how do you approach the relationship aspect of all this? And I know a lot of people follow you guys because of the relationship you have created, and it seems very healthy, and you guys are really putting in the work to improve it constantly. And I know that's also part of the mindset. So let's get into a bit about the relationship part.
Which part do you want to know?
I mean, let's see, because you can take many paths with that broad topic. But how about the importance of surrounding yourself with the right life partner, the right person by your side to hold you accountable, help you build habits? Because one of the things, like with my girlfriend personally, we were very close in the quarantine. So the habit part was a jumble because we both had completely different habits. I fasted, for example. She didn't fast. Cold showers, like things like this. So when it comes to relationships, how important, like how do you approach the accountability, surrounding yourself with the right person, and then sustaining a healthy relationship long term?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to keep in mind in any relationship, whether it be a romantic, whether it be a business partnership, whether it be a friend, is do you have the same or similar values in place? And when I'm speaking about values, like these are like your principles. What is important to you? Because for somebody, it's like eating healthy and being healthy is important. For other people, they want to drink beer and eat pizza and watch sports when you don't care about that stuff. And so similar for me, and I was kind of growing up, you have these moments where there's a lot of peer pressure from society to be a certain way. So, you're in Spain right now. There's a huge football culture there. Probably there's a big, probably drinking culture with the food, or big staying up late culture. These are forces of people around us. And what happens is many times we just go with the flow of what everyone is doing. And the thing that I think the most important thing you have to realize, whether it be in a relationship, like I said, friends, partnerships, business, career, is actually most importantly question yourself and get to know yourself of what is important to you, what feels good to you, Meaning, when I was growing up and I'll go with my buddies to watch sports and drink beer, I'm doing it, yeah, because it's whatever's supposed to be cool and because I'm here with my friends. But inside, I know this is not what I want to do. And I can keep on pretending that and keep going with my buddies and drinking and watching sports. But it's not something, if it's not something that I actually feel that I want to do, then I'm doing myself a disservice. And that's when people become unhappy because they're not living their values. So what you have to really, most importantly, like I said, before you approach any relationship, is really go inside and understand what is important to you. And that doesn't mean, you'll know right away, you're kind of figuring yourself out, but become aware of the moments you feel good and the moments you feel bad, because our emotions are a great way to communicate to us of what is good and what's bad. Like we have to understand that we're creatures that have evolved for a really long time. And a lot of these, we've been disconnected to certain regards with our intuition, our feelings, or our emotions. But those guides are the most important things. And when we're disconnected, our body and our emotions will communicate it to us if we're able to actually listen to those things. So going back to the relationship is really assessing, okay, what are my values? Does this person share my values? So we'll say both Mimi and I, when we got together, let's say I was really into Tony Robbins and self-development. And if she was like, that is whack, you're crazy, like long term, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Because what I would say is that she's really fixed mindset and she doesn't want to grow, and she's not going to. And if this feels good to me, and I'm going to keep doing it, this is gonna like go out of style real quick. But instead, what happened as we got to know each other is that let's say Mimi wasn't that well read, or she was into this kind of stuff, but slowly, because I was getting into it, she was getting into it too, and she was open to it. So then when I'm like, hey, I'm reading this book, or I'm listening to this audiobook, you should listen to it, or whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, cool, I'll do it too. So because it was also part of growth, and I'd say learning was also part of her values. She appreciated it. And so I think those things are so important, like I said, in any relationships, is how do you approach life and how do you approach these different things. So with a partner, do you share the same vision also for your life? What do you see as a relationship? And that's one of the things I know Mimi, that I really connected us with Mimi in the early days, was like, she's like, I don't see myself working at a bank, and I want to travel. I want to see the world. I want to have adventures. I'm like, yeah, me too. I want to do that too. Imagine once again, if I had a girlfriend who was like, oh, I just want to be close to my family and live in the suburbs, and like, I don't care to travel, right? It will be a disconnect. It wouldn't work out. And there's so many people and so many relationships where the reason there's so many divorces is ultimately there's a disconnect of values. And you can't, one of my favorite books of all time, if you ever listen to me, you probably heard me talk about it, is Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a short book. It's one of the most important books you'll ever read for yourself, for the relationship for yourself, but also relationship with other people. And one of the concepts there is like, you can't make a dog a cat, or a cat a dog, whatever, vice versa. And a lot of people try to be like, oh, I'll work on him, or so she'll change with time. No, you won't. Like, people are people, let them be. And if they are a certain way, you have to accept that and move on. And I think the same thing happens in a relationship. And we've just been, with Mimi, lucky enough, I think, to identify that in each other and have lots of difficult conversations, to be honest with each other, right? Is really transparency and feedback is one of our values in our companies, and it's one of our values in our personal relationships. And it takes time. It doesn't mean right away, because relationship is great at the beginning, but as you grow, you'll come across these difficulties. The difficulties arise usually when the values, you have different beliefs in how you've been brought up, or how you, or maybe you just look at it a different way. It doesn't mean it's wrong or right. Maybe you think it's a certain way, but then you're being challenged in a certain way, and you have to recalibrate how you have thought about your whole life. So those are kind of some of the things that I would say are very important in a relationship and looking at it.
And one of the things that we always hear about relationships is like, oh, opposites attract, you complement each other, where, exactly like that. And that's why I'm curious to ask you. So in terms of when you do complement each other, but you're completely the opposite and you have a different worldview, is there a space to cultivate, like this long-term relationship, whether it be like a partnership, a life partnership, a business partnership, even family as well? How can you create that middle point of, maybe you have a different value than me, but I really want to get into business with you, or stuff like this? Is that possible? Do you see that could be worked on, or how do you see it?
Not with values. So you if you have opposite, I have experience with this many times, but especially recently, especially when you're entering a business partnership, and think about it, business partnership is a marriage. Mm-hmm. It's as serious as a marriage. Like people, like I've been in a business partnership, they're hard to get out of. It's a divorce, and it's the same kind of thing. So the opposites attract thing, I think it's very important to touch on it. The opposite attract thing is real, but for different things. Mm-hmm. It's not that opposites of, let's say, you're into different things, right? Same like the examples I put. There's opposites, let's say in a relationship, it's opposite energies. And Mimi actually has a book on this, which I kind of forced her to write because she came up with it. I said, you have to explore this concept because it's changed our life. It's called the bingo theory. And the bingo.
Okay.
Bingo theory. You can find it on Amazon. We don't really talk about it much. We should more. Mm-hmm. But it speaks about masculine and feminine energies.
Okay.
And as stereotypical society looks at man, you're masculine. Woman, you're feminine. Mm-hmm. That's it. Right? However, what Mimi proposes in the bingo theory, and not in there, it's in many different kind of cultures and beliefs and things like that, is we have a combination of both. There's yin and yang. And if you look at the sign of yin and yang, the black and white, you'll also have, the white and the black and the white. And it kind of mixes. And there's this balance. And that's what we really are. And so as a man, I have certain feminine qualities. Mm-hmm. And I also have masculine qualities. When we are, let's say, sperm, and we are born and we're in a fetus, we actually don't have a gender for a certain time being. Yeah. And then it evolves either into a penis or a vagina, right? Mm-hmm. Sex ed 101 with Alex, right? So, but we come from the same type of, material, and we then have certain characteristics that we have. It's like a balance. It's like a scale. You have certain more of them or less of them. So in this kind of, what I'm trying to navigate to is that there's certain qualities, what a masculine qualities are, right? Let's say, for example, in women, women are emotional. That's a feminine feature. But many men are very emotional. Yeah. And I know women who are not emotional. I know men who are very emotional, right? And it can be like, men are very stubborn. It's not a men thing. It's a masculine feature. Yeah. Right. Meaning it's the same thing. It can be a woman can have a masculine feature, or a man can have a masculine feature. So, and one of the things that she proposes there is that if you really identify yourself, you may have a feminine strength or a masculine strength. So, for example, intuition, more of a feminine characteristics. So the characteristics, something that let's say I have as well, more than even my wife Mimi. And the opposite is actually in the energy stuff. So in a stereotypical relationship, man is a man, a woman is a woman. Now in this current society and world, it's all kind of fluid and changing. Yeah. And once again, society will get you thinking like, I'm a man, I should drink beer, I should watch sports, and I shouldn't care for design and interior and creativity and art, right? But who says what? And that's why you have to really get in touch with yourself and what you're really into. Mm-hmm. So for example, it's kind of a long thing and we kind of get into it, or you can read the book.
Yeah.
But in summary is that, let's say even in our relationship, I have feminine strength, energy. And Mimi is actually masculine. So one of the things, for example, other thing is that I love options. I love exploring options. I like when we're looking for a place, I like to look at all of them.
Yeah.
And
you also have that creativity aspect of it. I know you like the creativity in here. Like I know that's you.
Exactly. Creativity, aesthetic, feeling, touch, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Love it. Right. And they say, oh, man is the decision maker. Right. I hate making decisions. I actually suck at decisions. Like I'm okay with it. I can do it, but it doesn't it's not my thing. For Mimi to make a decision, bam, 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 done.
Yeah.
Right? She's decisive. She gets it going. And those are the opposites that make our a kind of relationship work. And that's why we're able to respect each other and our energies and actually help each other on our journey, because there's different types of relationships that can be, and it can be, like I said, you can have a man that's masculine energy and a woman that's feminine. It's a stereotypical relationship. That's most of them. It works. But there's also relationships like Mimi and I have where I have more feminine energy, where I love to do romantic things, set the mood, do candles.
Light the candles.
Do the music. I do that. She doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Mimi doesn't set the mood. She doesn't dim the lights. Right? I do that. But I love doing that. Mm-hmm. And it's actually kind of respecting your thing. And the opposite can be the same thing. Like I said, but there also can be feminine, right? Two feminines in a relationship. So they're both emotional. Mm-hmm. Ooh. And that's where, or they're both masculine, right? So what are both masculine relationships? For feminine, it's really easy to be emotional and to touch and to give a partner a hug and say, come here. For masculine, it's very hard for them to express their feelings, right? So if you have two masculines, they both want the same thing. They want love, but they don't know how to give love. Mm-hmm. And then you have this weird dynamic of okay, we're alpha, we're going to go get it. We're partners, we're going to achieve. But then they can't talk to each other, right? Or you have two feminine, two very emotional people. They fight all the time and they break up and make up and whatever, and they're very emotional. And maybe you'll see that in Spain a lot. I don't know. Yeah. Stereotype. But I'm just saying. So what I'm trying to touch on this thing of opposites. The opposites is real, but it's opposite energy. Uh-huh. And the same exists even in a business. So in a business. One of the best books that I've ever read is called Traction by Gino Wickman. And what he speaks about there in business, you need a visionary and you need an integrator. Mm-hmm. And this is very important, right? Because certain people, their skill sets, their strength is being an integrator, meaning operations, they're organized, they get things done. You tell them directions, they follow it, they do better, boom. Visionaries are more creative. They come up with ideas, they have the feeling of how the product should be. The perfect, let's say, example of this is Apple in its heyday. Mm-hmm. Steve Jobs, visionary, right? This is how things should be. This is how it's going to be. This is the Tim Cook, integrator. Yeah. Get it done, operations thing. If you look at it as a company now as Apple, they're an operations focused company. All they're doing, they're just executing on Steve Jobs' vision. They're not really innovating. Yeah. If Steve Jobs was around, they'd probably be innovating so much more and he'd probably cause more headache. But Tim Cook is really making things more efficient. But you need both. You can't have just visionaries. So same thing I'll say in a company, you can kind of see that, right? This opposite dynamic. Because if you have two partners or two, in a business that are both visionary, they're going to fight over each other's vision. Mm-hmm. Or if they're going to have two people who are just integrators, okay, they know how to get stuff done, but they don't have that vision of how to make it more beautiful, how to attract the customer. It's so these these things of opposites do exist, but they're just in a different way, and they're never about values. You can't really be opposite of values. You can't be like, one is for like, I'm for freedom, and the other one's for like security.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle. Those are opposites are very like, you're going to struggle with those opposites because they're very different. So I say these are certain principles that we came across and we live by, that we came across, whether it be the masculine feminine thing. Because even when we were hiring, I'm assessing people. I'm like, are they masculine strength or feminine strength? And what it tells me is that what female or male doesn't matter, right? It'll guide me on certain things. And like I said, if you want to kind of explore that too, we have podcasts where go more into depth about this, or Mimi's book. But I'll say these type of principles and lessons have really helped us in hiring and guiding and everything else.
Wow. I really love that. Like, I just got so much out of that, and I know we're short on time, so I want to start wrapping this up.
Thank you last question or whatever. How many? If you have one more question or something like that, I'll look.
Yeah, it's the wrap-up question, because we already went deep, and then this wrap-up question will go a little bit deeper. First of all, I want to hear, where can people find more about you? What are you up to these days? Just quickly plug in wherever you think people can find you.
Yeah, definitely. People can find me anywhere on Alex Ikonn, so IKONN double N's. Then Intelligent Change is kind of like the main thing, so intelligentchange.com. That's where we produce, as you showed, the 5-minute journal or the productivity planner, or we just launched the Best Year Journal, which is the journal to help you plan for your year and review and goal set for the year. We're going to be launching so many products this year. We have also an app, the 5-minute journal app, which is going to be also relaunched soon. We're very excited about it. So yeah, that's kind of the jam. And it's all about, we've sold our company, our previous company. I'm doing Intelligent Change now. Like I said, it's not to exit. It's not to just keep making money. I'm doing it because it's something that I love. And that's I think what I recommend to anybody is to really get to that point where you can do that initially, but create a business or create a life that you yourself want to be part of. Yeah. And Intelligent Change is the company that we're building of like, this is a company that I want to work for. These are the products that I want to see in the world. And that's why I've said that's the best inspiration, because a lot of people also create products and businesses simply because they just want money, or they want to, like freedom, but they don't want to they're not doing the product because they're actually passionate about it. And I think it's still important for you to create products that you actually care about. Yeah. And it will make you go through the struggle of business, because it's difficult, a lot easier, because you're like, I actually want this.
I love that. So the name of this podcast, as I told you, is the Energy Motto. And we've been talking about helping our energies match with our business partners, our relationships, all this. And we came up with this concept of energy, and I'm sure it's already like created, but putting a name to it and then a definition to it, we said that the energy that we have are the untapped sources of internal energy that we all hold to unleash those extraordinary capabilities, whether that be physical, mental, spiritual. And we like to ask our guests at the end of every podcast, where do you get that energy from? What is that in your life that wakes you up every single day? And it's something more from within rather than the external.
Yeah, I think it still comes from that within of that gratitude and appreciation. I think what keeps me going is knowing that there are so many things that are going well for me. I'm saying, unless you realize and have that gratitude for your life itself, and at my basic gratitude that keeps me going is that I'm alive. That's it. That's as simple as it gets, is that I get to wake up another day. I'm already appreciative and grateful for having this opportunity, or even having problems. I'm grateful for that opportunity to experience it and to go through it. That's what really keeps me going.
Amazing. I really recommend the 5-minute journal, the productivity planner, which I have yet to try out, but I'm really looking forward to, the Best Year journal. congrats, brother. I really enjoy this podcast with you. And I know a lot of people are going to get value from this, especially on their entrepreneurial journey, setting habits, relationships, everything, brother. All the love and wishing you the best for the new year. This might be released after the new year, but we're going to start on the right foot, huh?
All good. Thank you so much.
All the love, brother. Take care.
Sweet. Yeah.
See you.